unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. GENNADY Golovkin is getting knocked out by Canelo. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Sign up for ESPN Plus bundle. That includes ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus. All three apps, $12.99 a month. It does help the channel when you guys click on that link. A lot of people are locked down. If you don't have an essential job, you know, most cities and states and towns are abiding by the stay home clause while we beat this pandemic. So if you need something to do and you need some content, holla at that link in the description box of all of my videos. And it helps the channel in such a phenomenal way. So appreciate you guys who have already clicked on the link. We working. Now, Canelo Alvarez trainer Eddie Reynoso, he seems to know so, bars. And he did an interview with ESPN Deportes and talked Golovkin part 3 with his fighter Canelo Alvarez, of course. He said in the trilogy he expects his pupil, you know, his star pupil, the guy who was really helped Reynoso get on the map, you know, before Oscar Valdez and Mark Castro and Ryan Garcia and all that. It was the Reynosos, Chepo and Eddie Reynoso and Canelo, right? And Canelo put him on the map, and they rose to prominence at the same time. This is what he had to say. If that fight comes to fruition, Canelo and Golovkin part 3, Canelo will undoubtedly win by knockout. We are going to look for the fight like we did in the rematch from the very beginning to try to put him on the back foot. But this time things are going to be very different. This time we are going to knock him out. We are promising that will happen to all the people who believe in us. Now, one person that believes in him is your boy Ego. And this is so funny that I did a video about this. Literally, I did it earlier and then I just posted it earlier yesterday. And virtually saying the same thing. For me, I don't really have much interest in Canelo Triple G3. That fight has, you know, ran its course to me. They didn't fight the exact year where they should have fought. I think it was 2016. You know, Canelo was still at 54. Then he was, you know, at 155 with Cotto. Inherited Cotto's mandatory of Golovkin by beating Cotto. But, you know, they didn't fight. Canelo vacated the belt. The rest is history. But they did end up fighting, I believe, the previous year after that. You know, they were really supposed to fight after Canelo knocked out Amir Khan and Triple G knocked out Dominic Wade. So they waited another year. First fight was controversial. I was at that, covered it, Credential Media. Good fight. You know, not as much action as some people probably were expecting, but still, you know, it was a fun fight. And it was a draw. That's what it was. I thought Golovkin, like, etched it out, personally. But Canelo did better than people gave him credit for. The thing that kind of spoiled it and was most shocking was Adelaide Bird's scorecard, because in my view, there's no way either guy, Canelo nor Golovkin, won 10 rounds to 2. It wasn't even that type of fight. So in my opinion, nobody, especially Canelo, shouldn't have had a score where they were credited for winning 10 rounds. It just simply wasn't that type of affair. I thought Canelo did good early, faded, and then Golovkin kind of came on, but, you know, Golovkin not having the most defense. You know, there's some competitive moments. Canelo got tired. And then the second fight, it started off the same way, but I think Canelo was more aggressive, which is what Eddie Reynoso is saying right now, that their game plan is. And he was backing up Triple G, and Triple G was looking horrible. I was like, man, Canelo might stop him here. But Canelo having stamina issues, which we've seen, fighting at a pace that, see, the thing, Canelo's style is weird because he's a beautiful boxer and he knows how to string up combinations like no other. great variety, punch variety. He could throw different punches, different angles. Feet slow, but he makes do with that. Very good defense, upper body movement wise, and he's just a good fighter, a very good fighter, complete fighter, student of the game, always learning. He's been staying in shape, things like that. But the kryptonite seems to be for Canelo is he hasn't quite figured out his stamina. Like, he can look beautiful in the first 5-6 rounds and then flatten out, and he looks like a totally different fighter. You know what I'm saying? At least to me. Like, I thought versus Jacobs, if he started stronger, or if he finished stronger like he started, then that would be like an awesome performance. But he leveled out midway through the fight, and then Jacobs started to come on a bit, and the fight was, I think Canelo could have done more. So I don't know what he has to do, but pace himself a little bit different, or get his lungs up or his wind up or whatever. But that seems to be one of his kryptonites. He don't like to fight at a pace where he's throwing quite so many punches, things like that. But versus Triple G, I could see the only outcome is Canelo is going to win this. I could see it going to decision. Golovkin, hasn't been stopped, but I think it's going to be ugly for Golovkin. I could definitely, in the words of Rayman, Dustin Hoffman, definitely, I could definitely see Golovkin also getting stopped in this fight. And it's funny because I said that in that previous video, and then you have Eddie Reynoso, who did an interview unbeknownst to me, and he's saying the same thing. And I've been telling you this. That's why I really don't have much interest in Canelo versus Triple G 3, because DAZN and the parties involved in the powers that be, they waited, and the fight has lost luster. One thing I would say that makes Canelo look bad here is Canelo spent the better portion, if not all of last year, arguing with DAZN, who wanted Canelo versus Triple G, and they could not get Canelo to admit. People said he was being a diva. They couldn't get him to confirm and or sign on the dotted line, which put DAZN in a bad spot because they needed a big fight, and they were thinking that would be the ticket, etc. And the pretense that Triple G, that I'm assuming one of the determining factors that made him, because he was sought out, he was a free agent after HBO left. Canelo went over to DAZN, and Triple G was sought out by ESPN and PBC and had offers, open offers from them, as well as DAZN. So I'm pretty sure part of Triple G's reason for signing to DAZN, it was new. They were offering a lot of money, and there were some good middleweights and super middleweights, obviously being Canelo being one of them, because that made big splash when Canelo first signed to DAZN. So that was part of why, if we're being honest, part of why he decided to even go to DAZN. So for DAZN to not have it in writing with Canelo to enforce that he fights Golovkin last year, which would have been better, then that would have made more sense. I told you, I don't know everything, but ego matchmakers, I had this all mapped out. Canelo was in a unification with Danny Jacobs. He beat Jacobs, so he got Jacobs' belt as well as he already had a belt, right? So what he should have done, since he was in a unification, so he beat Golovkin, so he had the belts. Then he got Jacobs' belt. Jacobs got a mandatory challenger was Derevyanchenko, and they fought for the vacant belt. So after Canelo beat him, around the same time, like even before the fight, they should have made Triple G, instead of him fighting Steve Rolls, they should have made him fight Andrade. Andrade is a missing link. Triple G never had the WBO belt to this day. Wilder voice. Never had that WBO belt. So if Triple G were able to beat Demetrius Andrade, he would have got a belt that has escaped him, when he was on his quest for undisputed, and he never fought Billy Joe Saunders, because, at one point Billy Joe Saunders was kind of ducking him. But then later on, Billy Joe Saunders says, I got my pin, and at least said he wanted the fight. And Triple G was too busy up Canelo's ass looking for the Canelo fight. So he just, let the chasing Canelo consume the rest of his career, for the last several years. So that would have been the ideal situation. Canelo beat Jacobs, unification, boom. That meant Canelo had all the belts except for the WBO. So if Triple G versus Andre would have fought, Andre being the WBO champion, then guess what? The winner of that fight would be the WBO champion, and then Canelo could have fought Golovkin or Andrade, whoever won, for all the marbles, undisputed. But DAZN obviously wasn't thinking that far ahead, or they don't know what they're doing or whatever, and Golden Boy or Canelo didn't want the fight. Whatever reason, they never even explored this option. So what ended up happening is Canelo was supposed to fight Charlo. Triple G was supposed to fight Charlo. Neither of them did it. So neither one wanted smoke. Charlo said he wanted Triple G, he wanted Canelo. He's been on record saying this, boom, boom, boom. I don't care if fans say that Charlo has no chance. He earned his shot. He went through all the WBC parameters and eliminators. He was the mandatory. I don't care if you personally believe Charlo would have lost, because that's not how it goes. Because some people thought Errol Spence was going to lose to Kell Brook when he was the mandatory. But guess what? He won. Some people thought Caleb Plant was going to lose to Jose Uzcategui when he was the mandatory. But guess what? He stepped up in class and he showed and proved people wrong, and he won. So Charlo was owed that opportunity from first Golovkin, and then it got passed off to Canelo when Canelo beat him. So that being said, they didn't do what I said as far as making Triple G versus Andrade. They put Triple G in there with the Steve Rolls, which made no sense. Nobody knew him. Horrible fight where you're overpaying Triple G. And then kept Demetrius Andrade, the black fighter, continuing to fight names that really don't build his profile and show us how good he is, and trying to protect Triple G and keep him, on the warmer for Canelo. So in that in-between times, in the meantime, Canelo beat Jacobs. Triple G didn't even look all too great versus Steve Rolls, but then knocked him out. And then Canelo was supposed to fight Charlo. He didn't, so they came up with this new position, the franchise champion. So he got stripped of his WBC belt and put in protective custody by the WBC, the witness protection belt, right? And then, the rest just started going. The DAZN curse kicked in, and it really started going downhill from that, because Triple G looked horrible versus Deryevchenko and somehow got a unanimous decision victory. I don't even see how all three judges would have agreed that Triple G definitely won that fight, because to me, there's no doubt about it, Deryevchenko was the rightful winner. But politics and money and, trying to preserve Triple G for a Canelo fight. So that hurt the Canelo fight probably worse than most things. Then Canelo lost the WBC belt, so that, it just made the Triple G fight less appealing. Then Canelo was supposed to fight Deryevchenko, but he was too busy negotiating with Kovalev at 175, a fight no one really asked for. Kovalev had his own business in his own division, with Anthony Yard as mandatory, but Canelo was trying to pick on, be a vulture and pick on Kovalev at the end of his, rope type of thing. And spent too much time with Kovalev. Then Kovalev ended up fighting Yard and looking bad. So, it's just everything went bad. Everything that could go wrong, Murphy's Law, everything that could go wrong went wrong. And then Canelo him and his team had to rush and try to negotiate with his mandatory Deryevchenko by a certain due date, a deadline. Couldn't make the deadline, so Canelo got stripped of that belt. So between Canelo getting stripped of the WBC and the IBF, and then the IBF vacant belt being fought for by Sergey Deryevchenko and Triple G looking horrible, that really knocked the Canelo Triple G 3 fight out the park. And I wanted to give you guys the chronological history. For some of you guys, it's not new information, but I got different people that watch my channel. So that's literally what happened. You can even Canelo himself said that Triple G lost to Deryevchenko. You could look all this stuff up. Triple G said we all seen that Deryevchenko won and Triple G lost that fight. So the bad thing, as I was mentioning, I know how to get that long-winded spill out, but the bad thing for Canelo that I was mentioning is this. Canelo Alvarez all last year said he didn't want to fight Triple G. DAZN couldn't force him to fight Triple G because they didn't think, to renegotiate when they signed Triple G and say, hey, and have options. They were so desperate for Canelo, they gave him too much freedom, and they allowed him to take installments out of the money that they owe him without promising Triple G, to make the Triple G fight. So Canelo told him and his team all last year, even though DAZN was insistent on this fight, Canelo wouldn't make the fight. He says, my business with Triple G is finished. I don't want to give him the payday. I don't like him. Whatever he could say, I'm going after Undisputed. He's not really relevant. I already beat him. He said everything under the sun why he didn't want to fight Triple G. The bad look for Canelo is this. Now all of a sudden, Triple G has been highly inactive, which is uncharacteristic for his career when he was on HBO. He was fighting up to 4 times a year, 3-4 times a year. Now that he looks suspect against Deryevchenko, and even in the Steve Rolls fight, he was getting tagged in the Steve Rolls fight, even though he would ultimately knocked out an inexperienced guy at a catchweight. But especially the Deryevchenko fight, he looks super vulnerable. Now Canelo wants to pounce on him. It's just not a good look, because Triple G, they were trying to put him in with Camille Sesmeta, a guy with very little knockout power that's allegedly his mandatory to keep him safe to make the future fight that they feel is so big. So, that's why I'm not too big up on that fight. I do agree with Canelo and his team. I think Triple G has a high probability of getting knocked out, in any type of fashion. It doesn't have to be a knockout with his eyes closed, but a TKO because he's just getting punched too much. He looks shot. He didn't look good in the Deryevchenko fight. They've already fought 24 rounds, and in 24 rounds of action, we have never seen Triple G knock down Canelo, so much as knock him down, let alone stop him. He hurt him, but he couldn't put his foot on the gas. Now with Triple G having spotty activity levels, looking horrible versus Deryevchenko, what makes anyone believe that Triple G is now in prime? And it was his birthday yesterday, and he turned 38. So most people, look it up. Most people in boxing, when they're 38, their resume is at its peak, but their careers aren't at its peak. You see what I'm saying? There's a couple people like Mayweather, Marquez, Sergio Martinez, Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones, that fought on like into their late 30s or 40s, but most guys are usually wrapping up their career by then. Triple G, for a 38-year-old, his resume is very light. He's not even a 2-time Olympian. So like Lomachenko, he only has 15, 16 fights, but that's because he stayed around 8 years for 2 Olympic games. Triple G has 1 Olympic game and has the current resume that he has at age 38, which is not really good. And then the names that are good, like the Jacobs of the world, Deryevchenko solid, 2 Canelo fights, none of which did he show any true separation. He really didn't. He didn't really show true separation in terms of like, I'm levels above this guy. So Triple G's resume is really suspect for his age. De La Hoya, you guys could look it up. When he lost to Pacquiao, he was probably around this age. But if you look at De La Hoya's resume at age 38, he had names like Floyd Mayweather, Bernard Hopkins. He had just fought Pacquiao, Ike Corte, Pernell Whitaker, Arturo Gatti, 2 fights with Julio Cesar Chavez, 2 fights with Sugar Shane Mosley, a fight with Felix Sturm, a fight with Felix Tito Trinidad, a fight with Ricardo Mayorga, a fight with who am I thinking of? Oscar De La Hoya had a fight with, I just said Mayorga. Vargas, sworn enemy, Fernando Vargas. You see what I'm saying? So he had an illustrious Hector Camacho. He has a crazy resume. By the time he's a 1-time Olympian too, a gold medalist, and De La Hoya's resume was insane. By the time he, like, win, lose, or draw, I'm saying. And there were performances where De La Hoya definitely showed separation. Like I said, he had the Floyd, the Pacquiaos, Julio Cesar Chavez 1 and 2. Bro, he just had named Felix Tito Trinidad. These are all first ballot Hall of Famers. Sugar Shane Mosley. He just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. He had bodies. Triple G ain't got no bodies. Bro, he's like a skinny girl. You ain't got no bodies. You ain't got no bars. You ain't got no body. Like, you had Canelo, which you couldn't convincingly beat in 2 fights, 24 rounds. I thought Jacobs beat him. I definitely thought Deryevchenko beat him. You see what I'm saying? His best win, where he showed the separate David Lemieux, who had already had 2 losses and been stopped by Marco Antonio Rubio and lost the very next fight after that against a guy like Joachim Alcine, who Charlo knocked out easily later on. It's just not that good. So I agree with Canelo's team. I think Canelo's the younger. He just knocked out Kovalev. He's younger. He's fresher. He's more complete, skilled. I think he has more hunger and desire. We're not even really seeing, like, I don't see Triple G when he's on HBO. You see him on social media post stuff. You don't really see that. It looks like Triple G. I think Teddy Atlas just recently said that Triple G's just looking for a payday. You know, that's what it looks like. You don't really see or hear from him. He's just chilling with family or whatever he's doing. You don't see him or his handler post about him. So to me, this is kind of Canelo Triple G3 is a money grab. It really is. They're trying to get a bunch of people at AT&T Stadium or wherever to see this fight, and I really don't feel it's gonna live up to expectations. You got to look at it like this. Everybody's dealing with the Rona situation right now. Who knows with this absence of a gym and the ability to spar, who knows what type of shape a guy who I just told you, I don't think he's even that motivated anymore. He doesn't train with Abel Sanchez. You see what I'm saying? So is he even staying in shape? You don't really see nothing. Canelo, I see him. He's posting little bits and clips in his own personal gym. So we know he's the shot caller anyway. So we know he's staying ready, staying in shape, ready to go. But Triple G, we don't really know. We don't know if he's in shape or whatever. And now Canelo might bypass Billy Joe Saunders with this Rona situation. He might be getting Triple G at the perfect time because, again, Triple G could be doing a fat camp. We don't really know, because I've seen, if you notice this, Triple G in his last few fight camps, like leading into the camp, when the camp started, he looked pudgy. Like, he looked soft in the midsection. It looks like Father Time's catching up with him. He looks a lot less savage in his fights, and he looks a lot more complacent. So I could definitely see Canelo potentially knocking him out for sure. He just doesn't look like the same fighter. And revisiting the past, if Triple G, when he was undefeated and he had knocked out the better part of, the last 23 opponents or whatever it was, got a draw in the first Canelo fight, even though I thought he should have won that fight. Then he gets beat up in the second fight and loses worse, shows heart late. What's he going to do now? He pretty much has to knock Canelo out, because Canelo is hard to beat on the scorecards. He's really hard to beat on the scorecards. Plus, Canelo's confidence and his team's confidence definitely is going to grow, and you have too much to pick from. You have the 2 Canelo fights, you have the Jacobs fights, you have the Kell Brook fight, and now you have the Deryevchenko fight. These are all like slow chipping of the windshield. It's like a little chip at first with Kell Brook, little chip in the windshield. And to me, boxing is very hard to reverse and rewind the clock. Just mark these words, because I've been saying it before Eddie Reynoso. Mark my words. Mark my words. And then on top of that, if Canelo, Triple G being desperate for the fight, if Canelo puts in rehydration clause or any type of stipulation or catch weight, you got to keep in mind, Canelo just came from 175, 168. So if it happens anywhere over 160, if there's a rehydration clause, if there's a just anything extra added in, this is all going to be put in place to be at the detriment of Triple G. So I'm not convinced for this fight at all. I don't give Triple G really much. I know he's a puncher too, but like I said, it's like a chip in the windshield that you don't get taken care of. Eventually that glass is going to shatter, and we've seen it. Ever since the Kell Brook fight, Triple G has looked more and more vulnerable, and it's hard to reverse that, and I don't think he has the style to reverse that. The style to reverse that, where even guys that are knocked out or something can come back and still have success late. You have to have like dope fundamentals including defense, which I don't think Triple G has the most brilliant defense, and or you have to have some type of X factor, like guys like Pacquiao. Pacquiao's still insanely, blindingly fast, and he's so comfortable as a veteran and comfortable in his style. He can frustrate you and stutter step, and you got to know how to deal with that. And he got power, he got pop. Triple G's not insanely fast. He's not jumping in with his feet and doing some stuff like Pacquiao. So what is his X factor? He's not like, never really been known for being a insanely complete fighter, meaning like Pernell Whitaker, Floyd Mayweather type of defense, just all around complete skill set like a James Toney. So he doesn't have that on his side. He's getting older. He's looking more and more vulnerable. Canelo's hard to beat on the scorecards, right? He has more reason to be downtrodden and less confident based on his last outing with Derevchenko, knowing he really lost that fight, versus at least Canelo could say, I knocked out a guy at 175, Kovalev. You see what I'm saying? It's just all the warning signs are there. It's just, if they weren't going to give Triple G the first fight, I don't see time being on his side. And I think this was Canelo and his team's plan. Wait, because you look at all last year, Canelo really wanted no parts. He said, like, I don't want to fight him. It means nothing. It doesn't represent a challenge. I'm only after great challenges. But now all of a sudden you want to fight him, after he looks horrible versus Derevchenko. And Canelo admits this himself. Look it up. Canelo says Derevchenko beat Triple G. So in Canelo's mind, Triple G's last performance, his last outing, his last fight, Canelo admits that Triple G should have lost and really did lose the fight. We can't be responsible in boxing for the judges. We can't help that. But if you know boxing, you watch boxing, and you're scoring correctly, you know what you saw. And Triple G really should have lost. That like not one judge had it for Derevchenko. So Canelo knows what it is. And so it's just strategic. Just like when they caught Kovalev. They caught Kovalev slipping and lacking, court cases, needed the money, been knocked out by Alito Alvarez and Andre Ward. Caught him slipping, caught him lacking. Boom, rock-a-bye, baby. End of your road, end of your career. This is why Canelo kind of gets criticized with Eric Morales said it best. He said fighting guys that are deteriorating and past their prime. And see, the crazy thing is Triple G, very hyped up. He didn't even really have a prime where in his prime he was taking on crazy competition. And I don't care about if you want to say he was a boogeyman, because there's a lot of boogeymans that, keep working and their teams secure him the fight. Errol Spence was a boogeyman. Now he's able to get some fights now, but there was a time where he couldn't get the fight, so he had to keep knocking down doors. So miss me with that. New media, we unpacked. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.